The orders came through while Archer was still carrying my jacket in his mouth. Corporal Wesley slid the slate across the Vanguard desk with 2 fingers, like whatever was written on it might bite if handled wrong. Her face had changed, not much. Wesley was too practiced for that. But the smile she usually gave Archer was gone, and the little crease between her brows told me this was not another routine patrol or escort request. "Orders came through," she said. I took the slate. "Anything interesting?" She hesitated. "That is never good." "Distress beacon near the edge of Wolf," she said. "Civilian hauler, possible engine failure, possible pirate bait. Command wants you to check it." I looked down at the slate. The coordinates sat there in clean official text, cold numbers, empty space, a flagged emergency signal, vessel registry, list affiliated, League of Independent Settlers. That made me sigh. Wesley noticed. "You familiar?" "Enough." List ships were everywhere if you traveled long enough. They were prospectors, surveyors, salesmen, settlers, and sometimes liars wearing all 4 coats at once. They plotted courses, scanned moons, found habitable dirt, then sold people dreams of land they did not really own. Illicit, usually. Illegal, not always. That was the trick. They operated in the space between law and morality, which meant the UC had to tolerate them unless they stepped over a line hard enough to leave footprints. I had met settlers who swore list saved their families. I had met others who paid everything they had for coordinates to a dust ball with poisoned rain and aggressive fungus. Right or wrong, it was not always my place. My place was the beacon. Someone was calling for help, or someone wanted me to think they were. Behind me, Archer stepped into the corridor with the jacket still clamped in his jaws. He stopped when he felt the room change. He always did. Most people read faces. Archer read air. His head lifted. His blue teal plates shifted along his shoulders. The jacket hung from his mouth like a dead animal he had brought me as tribute. Wesley glanced at him. "Is he bringing that?" "Apparently." Archer dropped it at my feet. That was new. Usually he guarded stolen clothing like sacred treasure. Him dropping it meant he had decided something more important was happening. I crouched and picked up the jacket. "You feel it too?" He stared at me. "That means yes?" His tail twitched once. Wesley looked between us. "You two always do that?" "Do what?" "Have whole conversations where only one of you uses words." I folded the jacket over my arm. "He says I talk too much." Archer huffed. "See?" Wesley shook her head, but the tension did not leave her face. I read through the order again. Beacon strength weak but repeating. No confirmed hostile ships. No confirmed comms response after initial distress call. Civilian hauler. Possible engine failure. Possible pirate bait. Possible. That word did a lot of work in Vanguard orders. It meant command did not know enough to send a full response, but knew enough to send someone disposable before the paperwork got heavier. I clipped the slate to my belt. "Any backup?" "Not close enough to matter," Wesley said. "Closest patrol is 6 hours out. Station can monitor your feed once you're in range, but delay will be ugly." "So it's me." "It's you." Archer made a low sound in his throat, not a growl. "Not yet." A warning to himself, maybe. Wesley looked at him again. "You sure he's cleared for this?" "He's cleared for me." That was not the question. It's the answer I've got. She studied me for a second, then nodded. "Bring the hauler home if you can," she said. "Bring yourself home first." That was Wesley's version of warmth. Practical, efficient, buried under duty. I gave her a nod. "I'll send an update when I hit scan range." "Do that." I turned toward the docking corridor. Archer picked up the jacket again and followed. Of course he did. The den felt different when you were leaving for a distress call. Stations have moods. Anyone who says otherwise has not spent enough time breathing recycled air inside old metal. When we arrived, the den had been all noise and rust and routine. Fuel lines, docking clamps, trade counters, Wren's bar laughter drifting up from the lounge, Galbank's salesman smiling like he had practiced in a mirror until his soul gave up. Now every sound felt sharper. The docking bay fans hummed too loud. A loose panel clicked somewhere overhead. Two haulers argued near a cargo cart, but their voices seemed distant, like they belonged to another life where people had time to be irritated about delivery manifests. We passed the Galbank trade post. The salesman looked up and smiled. He always smiled. "Mr. Hammerfell," he called. "Leaving so soon?" "Yes." Dangerous work, I imagine. Nobody smiles that much unless they know something or want something. His smile twitched. Archer turned his head slowly, jacket still in his mouth. The salesman found a reason to look at his terminal. I kept walking. At the top of the lounge stairs, Ren saw me from behind the bar. He had a towel over one shoulder and a glass in his hand. His eyes moved from my face to Archer, then to the slate clipped to my belt. "Orders? Distress beacon." He reached under the bar and tossed a wrapped bundle across the room. I caught it against my chest. "Jerky." "For him," Ren said. Archer immediately dropped the jacket. "Traitor," I said. Ren pointed at me. "And don't die before paying your tab." "I have a tab?" "You will, eventually." That was fair. I tucked the jerky into my pack, picked up the jacket, and headed for the docking arm. The longsword waited where I had left her, clamped to the den like a predator, pretending to sleep. Blue and orange panels dulled under station light. Cooling mist drifted around the landing struts. The ship was not pretty in the way luxury ships were pretty. She was work, armor, engine, habit. A UC Vanguard longsword built to get between trouble and whoever trouble wanted to eat. I liked her for that. Inside, the ramp sealed behind us with a hydraulic hiss. Home, such as it was. Archer brushed past me the moment we entered and carried the jacket straight to his clothes pile behind the pilot's chair. He circled once, then stopped. He did not lie down. That told me more than any alarm could have. I went through pre-flight. Fuel levels good, grav drive stable, weapon systems cold but ready, life support green, docking release pending, autopilot standing by. I strapped in, then looked back. Archer stood behind the captain's chair, head low, eyes fixed on the forward glass, even though the docking bay doors still blocked the view. "You know," I said, "normal animals sleep before the bad part." He did not blink. Right. Forgot who I was talking to. The den control cleared us for departure. The clamps released with a heavy metallic thud. The ship shuddered once as station gravity gave way to thruster control. I eased the longsword back from the docking arm and rotated toward the open bay. The black beyond waited. It always does. "Vanguard longsword, CH-113, Charlie departing," I said, heading to distress coordinates. The den control answered through static. "Copy. Vanguard. Safe flight." Safe flight. People say that because there is nothing else to say. The longsword slipped out into open space. The den fell behind us, its lights shrinking against the dark. Around it, wolf system stretched cold and wide, all scattered rock, distant shine, and the kind of emptiness that made a distress beacon feel both small and loud. I set the coordinates, the route plotted across the nav display, outer edge of wolf, not too far by jump, far enough that help would not arrive quickly, far enough that someone might count on that. Archer moved closer, placing one heavy paw against the base of the chair. "Procedure says we approach cautious," I told him. "Training says we keep weapons cold until confirmed hostile. Vanguard says answer the call." He looked at me. "Aquila says assume teeth until proven otherwise." His tail moved once. "Yeah, I like Aquila's advice better too." I brought the grav drive online. The deck began its low tremble as the FTL engine spun up for inner system travel. Not a long jump, nothing dramatic. 20 minutes in transit, maybe less depending on local gravity and how cooperative the old drive felt. The ship's lights dimmed, then steadied. The engine tone deepened. I watched the coordinates lock. For a second, I thought about training. Not the ceremony, not graduation. Not Dane pretending my pin was crooked so he could touch it one more time. I thought about the ugly parts, the drills where instructors screamed contradictory commands to see if I would break sequence. The simulated calls where civilians begged over comms while hostile signatures hid behind debris. The lessons about bait, A distress signal could be a dying person's last hope. It could also be a hook. Vanguard training taught procedure. Aquila taught suspicion. The trick was letting both speak without letting either rule alone. Jumping, I said. The stars bent. The ship entered FTL. For 20 minutes, there was only the blur. White lines streamed past the viewport, stretched thin by the drive. The cockpit hummed around us. Archer finally lowered himself, but he did not sleep. He lay behind me with his head raised, jacket under one paw, eyes reflecting console light. I checked the distress packet 3 more times. The first message was garbled. A woman's voice under static. Civilian hauler Merryweather, engine failure, life support, need assistance, Wolf outer route, please respond. Then static, then beacon, repeated. No updated message, no shutdown code, no stand down, help arrived. Nothing. I tapped the console. Why not turn it off? Archer made a quiet rumble. That's what I'm saying. The jump ended with the usual lurch that made my stomach remember it had opinions. Stars snapped back into place. The longsword dropped into real space near the edge of Wolf, and every scanner on my board woke up. I slowed to 1/4 speed. Long-range scan, I said. The ship answered in beeps and cold data. 1 vessel, civilian registry, list affiliated, name, Merryweather. At least that part was correct. The hauler appeared on the display as a pale outline drifting against the dark. Boxy frame, survey attachments, external cargo struts, patchwork modifications that looked legal if no one checked too closely. Running lights low, main engine dark, aux power intermittent, no other ships in scanning range. That did not make me feel better. Scan for damage. The longsword painted the hauler in layers, minimal external damage. No major hull breach, no active fire, no radiation spike. Drive cold, multiple life signs. I leaned closer. Multiple, I muttered. The distress call said engine failure and life support problems, but the life signs were stable enough from this distance. Too stable for a ship supposedly dying slow. Archer rose behind me. He stepped up beside the chair and stared through the cockpit glass. The hauler drifted ahead, quiet and dark. Too quiet. I hailed it. Civilian hauler Merryweather, this is UC Vanguard vessel Longsword, responding to your distress beacon. Do you copy? Static. I waited. Merryweather, this is Vanguard. Respond. More static. Then the comm crackled. A woman's voice came through. Thin, controlled, too controlled. Vanguard vessel, this is Captain Elian Varga of the Merryweather. We copy. I glanced at the scan again. Multiple life signs. Captain Varga, we received your distress beacon. Report your status. A pause. Situation is under control now, Vanguard. We had a minor engine issue. No assistance required. Minor engine issue. The beacon was still screaming emergency on every channel. Your distress call remains active, I said. Yes. We're having trouble with the system. Old ship? You know how it is. I looked around my cockpit. Yes, I said, old ships can be stubborn. Archer growled. Low. Captain Varga continued. We appreciate the response, but you can cancel assistance. We'll limp to the den. Limp. Her engines were cold. I leaned back slowly. Captain, protocol requires visual confirmation before I clear a distress beacon. Another pause, this one longer. When she answered, I heard something underneath her voice. Not panic. Not exactly. Instruction. No need for that, Vanguard. My mechanic, Parker, has everything handled. The registry listed no Parker. I pulled the crew manifest onto a side screen. Captain Elian Varga, Navigator Sumi Kale, Engineer Rafe Corso, Surveyor Jalen Tegg, 2 passengers, no Parker. Wrong phrase, wrong name. My fingers moved over the console, quiet, recording active, station feed pending. Glad to hear Parker's on it, I said. Still need to check the beacon. Static shifted, maybe movement near her mic. Her voice returned. That would be inconvenient. We are, carrying sensitive survey data. Sensitive survey data. On a list ship, that meant one of 3 things. Maps they wanted to sell, land claims they wanted to exaggerate, or lies they had not finished pricing. "Understood," I said. "I'll keep the inspection brief." "Vanguard," I said, "assistance is not required." There it was, not fear. Warning. I looked at Archer. He was staring at the hauler with every plate along his neck raised. I muted comms. "Hostages," I said. Archer's growl deepened. "Yeah." I opened the channel. "Captain Varga, your beacon is still live. Under UC Emergency Response Protocol, I am required to board and verify vessel safety before closing the call. Prepare docking collar." Silence. Then, softer, Captain Varga said, "Understood. Docking collar 2 is available." A beat. "Mind the clutter. We had a rough morning." Clutter, rough morning, more hints. "Copy that," I said. I cut the channel. The cockpit went quiet except for the soft alarm pulse of the beacon. I brought the longsword in slow. 1/4 speed became thruster crawl. The hauler grew larger in the viewport, its hull showing scuffs, patched panels, and mismatched plating. No fresh blast marks, no obvious boarding scars, which meant whoever took it either came aboard friendly or got aboard quietly. Neither made me feel better. I matched velocity. Docking alignment came up green. "Weapons cold," I said to the ship. Then I reached for the side locker and pulled out my helmet. Archer turned. "No biting until I say." He huffed. "I mean it." His tail flicked. I suited up. The Vanguard spacesuit sealed around me piece by piece, blue and orange plates, pressure collar, gloves, chest rig, sidearm check, helmet locked under one arm for now. The Razorback sat in its holster, Dane's revolver heavy against my thigh. I had better weapons on board. A rifle would have made sense. But a rifle in a hostage situation is a promise you might not want to make. Too long, too visible, too easy to panic people already scared. The Razorback was personal, close, heavy, 6 rounds loaded, 6 decisions. I checked it once, then again. Dane's voice lived in my hands. A weapon is not power, it is responsibility with a trigger. I looked at Archer. He was already waiting by the docking hatch. "Stay close until I tell you different." He lowered his head. "Quiet." His mouth closed. That was as good as a prayer. The docking collar locked with a deep clang. Pressure equalized. The hatch light went from red to amber, then green. I put on my helmet. The world narrowed into suit audio and breath. The Merryweather hatch opened. The smell hit first. Stale air, sweat, burned wiring, fear. Fear has a smell when there is enough of it trapped in one place. The hauler's interior lights were dim. Emergency strips pulsed along the deck. The corridor beyond the hatch led into a common module with scattered supplies, overturned containers, and the kind of mess people make when they stop caring where things land, or when they are forced to. I stepped inside. Archer slipped behind me, low and silent. For something built out of armor, teeth, and bad intentions, he could move like spilled shadow when he wanted. Voices came from ahead. One male, laughing. One female, quiet. Another male, scared. I moved to the edge of the common module and stopped behind a bulkhead. There they were. 3 spacers, 2 hostages clearly visible. A woman standing near the central table with a pistol pressed close to her ribs. Captain Varga, I guessed. Another civilian sat on the floor near the far wall, hands bound. A spacer behind him, with a gun angled down toward his head. The 3rd spacer stood closer to the center, facing the corridor, weapon raised but not aimed at me yet. He could not see my full position, not my face, not Archer. Good. He shouted first. "Vanguard, that's far enough." I stopped. "Distress beacon's still active," I said. The center spacer laughed. "Yeah, well, funny thing about that." Captain Varga's eyes flicked toward me, not pleading, counting. Smart woman. The spacer with the pistol at her side dug the barrel closer. "Tell him to leave." She swallowed. "He should leave." Her voice was flat. Too flat. I stepped just enough into view for them to see the suit, not enough to give them a clean shot. "Can't do that." The center spacer raised his weapon. "You can." "No, I really can't." His helmet was scratched silver, armor mismatched but heavy. Not desperate scavenger heavy, prepared heavy. These were not starving men grabbing a ship for parts. They had planned this. Pirate bait. Maybe not for any ship. Maybe for Vanguard. "Here's what happens," the center spacer said. "You go back to your ship. You undock. You tell whoever sent you that the hauler is fine. The hauler is not fine. It'll be less fine if you keep talking." I looked past him. Archer had already moved. Not far, just enough. He slid left behind the seating area, body low, using overturned chairs and storage crates as cover. His blue-teal hide disappeared in the dim light until only the edge of his plates caught the emergency strips. Captain Varga saw him. Her eyes widened by a fraction. Then she looked back at me. "Good. Do not stare at the teeth." I kept my hands visible. "I don't want anyone hurt." The spacer laughed again. "That right?" "Yes." "Then you came to the wrong ship." He was trying to sound in control. He almost managed it. The pistol holder was the problem. His finger was too tight. Nervous. Nervous men shoot before thinking, then call it survival after. I needed time. "List vessel," I said. "Registry says survey run. What are you after? Data, credits, coordinates?" The center spacer shifted. "Maybe we just like the view." "No one likes the view this far out." Captain Varga spoke before he could stop her. "They want our route archive." The pistol hit her side. She gasped but did not fall. "Quiet," the spacer snarled. "Route archive." That made sense. List ships tracked settlements before settlements existed. Hidden resource spots, habitable moons, quiet routes, places people might pay to find or pay more to keep hidden. The center spacer tilted his head. "You're pretty calm for a hero." "I'm not a hero." "No?" "No." I let my right hand drift near the razorback but not touch it. "I'm the man trying to give you a chance." He laughed. That was when I knew he was going to die if he made me prove it. "You hear that?" he called to the others. "Vanguard's giving us a chance." The nervous one near the seated hostage looked toward him. Just for a second. Enough. Archer was in position. I saw it from the corner of my eye. A dark shape behind the seating. Head low, muscles loaded, eyes on me, waiting. All the training narrowed to one point. No whistle, no word. Sound would warn them. I looked at the nervous spacer, then at Archer, then gave the smallest twitch of my head. Archer lunged. The common room exploded, not with gunfire first, with motion. Archer hit the nervous spacer like a nightmare given weight. The man barely had time to turn before blue-teal armor and teeth slammed into him from the side. His weapon fired once into the ceiling. Sparks rained. The seated hostage threw himself flat. The pistol holder reacted to Archer. That saved Captain Varga. She drove her elbow backward into his ribs and dropped. I drew. The razorback cleared leather. Dane's gun filled my hand. 3 shots. The first took the pistol holder before he corrected his aim. The second hit the center spacer as his weapon came up. The third dropped the one near the back hatch, reaching for something on his belt. 3 flashes, 3 reports, 3 bodies hitting deck. For one breath, nobody moved. Archer had the nervous spacer pinned under one massive claw, jaws around his shoulder plate, not crushing yet. Training. Release only on command. The man screamed, then stopped when Archer growled into his helmet. I swung the revolver toward the last movement. There was one more spacer, half hidden behind the far partition. Young, too young maybe, gun shaking in both hands, eyes huge behind his visor. I aimed at his chest. "Don't." One word, not shouted. I did not need to shout. He looked at the bodies, then at Archer, then at me. His gun clattered to the floor. Smart kid. "Hands," I said. He raised them. "On your knees." He dropped. "Archer." Archer held the pinned spacer another second because Archer believed commands were stronger if seasoned with attitude. "Release." He let go and stepped back, though he kept his head low enough that the man understood the arrangement was temporary. Captain Varga stood slowly, one hand against the table. "You brought an ashta," she said. "Yes." She stared at Archer. Archer stared at the spacer under him. "Is that standard Vanguard procedure?" "No." Her mouth twitched despite the blood on her lip. "Good." I moved fast after that. Spacer weapons kicked away, survivors secured, hostages checked. Captain Varga had bruised ribs and a split lip. The navigator had a cut over one eye. The engineer's wrist was broken. 2 passengers shaken but alive. Alive mattered. Alive was everything. I kept the Razorback in hand until all weapons were accounted for. The surrendered spacer would not look at me. Good. Let him look at the floor. Captain Varga watched me secure the last restraint. You understood, she said. I looked back. Parker wasn't on your manifest. She breathed out a laugh that almost became something else. I hoped you'd check. You left enough hints. I was running out of subtle ones. The distress beacon helped. One of my crew got it active before they locked us down. Her face tightened. He didn't make it. I said nothing for a moment. There is no clean thing to say to that. Finally, I said, I'm sorry. She nodded once, then looked at the dead spacers. Are you? I looked at the Razorback. The barrel still smoked faintly. Yes, I said, but not enough to wish I'd missed. She accepted that. I opened comms to the den. Den Control, this is Vanguard Longsword, CH-113, Charlie aboard list vessel Merryweather. Distress beacon confirmed hostile action. Multiple hostages recovered alive. 3 spacers down, 2 restrained. 1 civilian casualty confirmed. Need medical response, security cleanup, and a qualified pilot team. Static answered first. Then Wesley's voice, sharp and clear through the delay. Copy, Vanguard. Medical and security response being assembled. Status of vessel? I looked around. The common module was wrecked. Blood on the deck. Burn marks on the ceiling. Broken furniture. Shaking civilians. One Ashta watching everyone like he was disappointed the fight had ended. Then I looked toward the cockpit hatch. Ship can move, I said, but they'll need a crew with a bridge. A pause. Wesley exhaled softly over the comm. Understood. Hold position. I looked at Archer. He had found my jacket where I had dropped it near the docking collar. Somehow, in the middle of all that, he had dragged it closer and placed one paw on it. I holstered the Razorback. Yeah, I said quietly. We'll hold.